Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake. 'Cause
I'm a fan of the cute, cuddly, and bloody show called Happy Tree Friends, created by Mondo Media. Unlike some cartoons that doesn't show gore or violence, Happy Tree Friends is very different. They're cute and cuddly on the outside, but bloody and violent on the inside. Death and gore were normal in this show, unlike some cartoons that have a lost episode where violence and death is shown to send a message of some sort. But I really try to avoid watching those lost episodes because of an experience I had. Several months ago, during Halloween, I was on my computer to check the official Happy Tree Friends website to see if there are any new episodes that have been released. But I was disappointed that it was just a blurb version of Can't Stop Coughin'. Several months later, however, I was on the Happy Tree Friends wiki trying to see if any new episodes were released, but to no avail, until something drew my attention. I found an unofficial Happy Tree Friends site. It looked kinda sketchy, but I clicked it. Then it took me to the site. It looks almost like the official site, but it was only filled with Happy Tree Friends stuff that never seemed to be updated. But for the sake of nostalgia, I watched several old episodes, along with the TV episodes. After watching them, something drew my attention. It was an episode that had never been shown on YouTube or the HTF website. The thumbnail showed a close-up of Toothy in a red cowboy costume, smiling while holding a leash. I have no idea why this was not shown on the Happy Tree Friends site, but only on this unofficial one. It was impossible to be fan-made because the graphics are purely made by Mondo Media itself. Feeling curious, I clicked on the video and decided to watch this episode. The episode first showed the Mondo Mini Show's logo popping up as usual. Then, instead of the HTF intro, it was the 1942 Merry Melodies opening with the zooming Warner Brothers shield, along with the 1941 to 1945 version of Merrily We Roll Along playing with the red rings appearing. I was confused, since Warner Brothers doesn't produce Happy Tree Friends. As the music finishes playing, the Merry Melodies logo gets struck by lightning, transforming into the episode's title card, Toothin on a Dog. Like every other episode, Mondo Media would incorporate a little pun in every one of their episodes, like Spin Fun Knowing Ya or Better Late Than Never. And Toothin on a Dog was actually a nice little pun for an HTF episode. As the title card faded away and the episode started, I was excited and I was going to see what mayhem would be caused in it. The episode started with a shot of Toothy's house. A normal regular house at Halloween night with some carved pumpkins shown in the background. Suddenly, Toothy came out with this similar red cowboy costume, like in the thumbnail, along with the dog on a leash. And then I figured out that the dog was Whistle. Whistle was the puppy shown in the Doggone It episode, and from the looks of it, they were going for a walk. As usual, happy times in the beginning, then the violent times will be shown later on. In the first minute of the episode, Toothy is on his way into town until he stopped when he saw his friend Cuddles walking towards him holding a bag full of candy. Toothy was delighted to see him and asked Cuddles in the usual gibberish tone in every other episode if he can join him for trick-or-treating. Cuddles agreed, then the two walked away, leaving Whistle alone. He started to roam freely around the town until Lumpy's whistling caught his attention. This caused Whistle to turn insane, just like in the Doggone It episode. Then quickly pounced at Lumpy and tears his body to pieces, just like the usual Happy Tree Friends manner. Then suddenly, Giggles, Petunia, and Mime saw Lumpy's remains, in which causing them to scream in horror. Whistle, still in his crazed state, as I will call it, heard them and ran after them. So as they were running, Whistle quickly attacked Giggles, who was running slower than the others. Then he tore Giggles's arm off, causing her to lose a lot of blood, then died. Whistle proceeds to attack and kill Petunia, Mime, the same way as he did to Giggles. A new scene begins. Whistle had calmed down and runs freely in the park, while Flippy's shown selling some goodies at a stand, with Sniffles, Flaky, and Russell in front of him, ready to buy some. Russell bought a whistle, and then he blew it, causing a nearby whistle to hear it and go back to his crazed state. This time, Whistle attacked Flippy from behind and torn off his head. This part made me confused. Flippy wasn't supposed to die without having his PTSD being triggered, in which resulting him into flip out. But I just thought that the creators wanted to do something different. But I continued to watch the episode. Flaky, Sniffles, and Russell quickly turned around and screamed in panic after they saw what Whistle had done to Flippy. Whistle then jumps at Flaky, tearing her face off and causing her to run in panic. Whistle then mauls Russell, tearing him apart as Sniffles tries to escape. However, Whistle quickly appeared in front of him, as if he made a quick kill on Russell. Then Sniffles had no other choice but to get killed by Whistle. The scene changes again to Toothy and Cuddles gathering a lot of candy in their bags at the mole's house, and they started to walk away. However, the mole was boiling water in the kitchen, and the pot created a whistling noise, drawing the attention of an insane whistle into his house. Toothy and Cuddles started to walk away until they heard the sounds of mauling. They quickly rushed into the mole's house, only to see a bloody mess. The insane Whistle looks at the duo, then quickly attacks Cuddles, instantly killing him. Toothy, however, remained untouched, as if the puppy doesn't want to harm his owner. After that, things started to take a dark turn. Toothy looks at Cuddles' corpse, which looked more hyper-realistic than the usual cartoon style. This was odd, I told myself. Mondo Media couldn't create that realistic style into Happy Tree Friends, but I shrugged it off and kept watching. Then Toothy begins to sob. Then the sobbing turned into crying. Then the crying got louder and louder and more realistic. Like Toothy was right there in front of me as he was crying at Cuddles' dead body. The scene changes again into the inside of Toothy's house. Everything was dark. Food messes and misplaced items were scattered everywhere. Toothy was sitting on the couch, still feeling the horror about his murderous pet and what it had done to his friend. Now, this is the part where I began to feel uneasy. Everything was mute, like in the Without a Hitch episode, but there was no sound at all. No music, no sound effects, nothing but eerie silence. Although I checked the volume on my computer and it was still up. As the shot showing Toothy sitting on his couch in front of his TV as it displays static, it was like he wasn't watching anything. He doesn't even make a sound or doesn't do anything else but just sit there for a solid 10 seconds. Suddenly, the TV started to flash images of horrific faces with bloodshot eyes and creepy smiles. Those faces were so hyper-realistic, so real that it almost made me scream. The static started to grow louder by the second. Toothy was still sitting there on his couch. He doesn't make a single sound. He was still mute, as if nothing was happening. It continued like this for a few seconds. Then suddenly, a close-up scene of Toothy's face was shown. His face also looked so hyper-realistic, just like the faces that was shown on that TV. He had the same bloodshot eyes along with a blank expression on his face. I felt a shiver run down my spine after seeing that. The scene changes again. Now Toothy was holding Whistles' leash. Then the scene changes yet again to him going into another room before cutting to black. A few seconds later, the scene displayed some off-screen crackling and choking noises, like someone was being strangled, until there was nothing but eerie silence again. The scene fades in to the room where Toothy went in and showed Toothy had hung himself. He had hanged himself in a super morbid and almost realistic manner. Toothy killed himself. He couldn't stand watching his friend get killed, so he ended his own life just so he doesn't have to live with the terror he had witnessed. Then the scene changes again to Whistle resting in his doghouse. For a few seconds, when the closing iris is shown, like the end of every other Happy Tree Friends episode, Whistle went to his crazed state again, but creepier. Both of his eyes are blood red, no longer the usual insane eyes or Pac-Man shaped eyes. Then the scene went to black and started to show the closing credits. During the closing credits, the song playing in the background was Merrily We Roll Along instead of the Happy Tree Friends theme. credits appeared on the same red Merry Melodies rings as shown in the opening. Even though I was terrified out of my mind of what I'd just seen, I still wondered what the moral of this was. Like the little message that would display at the end of every other episode. However, after the credits ended, there was no moral. Instead, a hyper-realistic, creepy, and partially decomposed close-up head of Toothy was shown, with blood smeared all over his face and fur. His teeth, instead of the usual buck teeth, were now sharp, and his eyes, my God, where his eyes should have been, there were only 2 empty black sockets, with blood dripping out of them. I screamed in horror and quickly unplugged my computer. I checked the time on my alarm clock, and it was just almost midnight. Then I realized I woke up my parents from my screams at the image that would forever be burned into my mind. I felt traumatized ever since. I wouldn't look at the show the same way again, not after the experience I had witnessed that night. Luckily, the next day, the episode had been removed after the Mondo crew noticed it and saw it as being too morbid and not fitting for the Happy Tree Friends world. So, they just released the blurb version of Can't Stop Coughing instead. But it's still unknown who actually put this lost episode in that site I found, or why the episode was made in the first place. I checked on the HTF wiki and the site that I found was gone. Either way, I'm glad they got rid of that horrifying episode. But I couldn't forget the experience, or the close-up image of Toothy's face, his hyper-realistic, decomposed, and creepy face. I will never forget it, or forget the episode.